We've got another bombshell college football realignment story. Ladies and gentlemen, Big 12 in deep discussions to add up to 6 Pac-12 teams after USC and UCLA go to the Big 10. This is branching off my last video when I talked about the 4 teams currently that are meeting with the Big 12 conference. You can see this is on Colorado's website. Special board meeting. They're having some sort of session there. I'd imagine that's what this is. Colorado meeting with the Big 12, possibly discussing a move to the Big 12. And guys, the reason this rumor is so interesting, we already knew about the 4 teams, Arizona State, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah. But could Washington and Oregon be joining those 4 and creating an absolute 18-team Big 12 super conference? Of course, Oregon fans, I've heard, not too happy with the idea of going to the Big 12, but if you get shut out of the Big 10, this could be your next and only option in terms of being relevant in the college football world. And what a major get this would be for the Big 12 conference to stay relevant, especially getting Oregon. That would be the biggest one. Also, Washington, we know both those teams, I'm sure, would rather join the Big 10, make more money, but that might not be viable. We know right now the Big 10 is waiting on Notre Dame. They're telling Oregon, they're telling Washington, they want to see what Notre Dame's going to do, wait for Notre Dame's decision before they accept or decline Oregon and Washington. And there's been speculation that both Oregon and Washington don't bring enough to the plate in terms of total revenue to warrant the Big 10 to offer them membership. So this is very interesting. Let's get to this article. 6 teams possible with Washington and Oregon going to the Big 12. The Big 12 is involved in deep discussions to add multiple Pac-12 programs as a way to shore up its membership in the wake of the USC and UCLA defection to the Big 10. Sources tell CBS Sports at least 4 teams are being considered, with the potential for the Big 12 to add more as realignment continues to shake out. Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah were mentioned specifically as teams being targeted by the Big 12. We've talked about this several times. I've been on top of it. Those are the 4 teams. The interesting thing with this article, Oregon and Washington, they've been mentioned about the Big 10. Not much about them joining the Pac-12 until now. Could they be on their way to the Pac-12? That would be could they be on their way to the Big 12? That would be a major get. They are being targeted by the Big 12. There is also the consideration of adding Oregon and Washington to make it an 18-team league, which would be the largest in FBS. Of course, for the time being, it would be the largest. We would have to see what the Big 10 would do. That'd be very interesting. If Oregon and Washington go with the other 4 Pac-12 teams to the Big 12, you've got an 18-team league. Now the Big 10 would probably look to entice possibly Notre Dame by saying, we'll bring Stanford as well. And then you would have 2 more teams going to the Big 10. That would give them an 18-team league because you'd have USC, UCLA, Stanford, and Notre Dame. And then you would have the SEC possibly picking off the ACC teams as long as the ACC teams are able to get out of their horrible media deal they have with ESPN. So these could be 18-team leagues. We've been thinking about these super conferences of 20-team leagues. We might get 18 teams depending on what happens with this situation. Everything is on the table, said one Big 12 source. There is no question the Big 12 has to be aggressive in expansion. Another conference source said, despite the Big 12's attempts, the Pac-12 released a statement Monday saying it would immediately begin negotiations on its next TV contract, intending to go forward with at least its 10 remaining members. There is a possibility more could be added to the mix, according to a Pac-12 source. The current Pac-12 deal expires in 2024. So yeah, every update we're getting about the Pac-12, they're getting more and more desperate. We had a rumor that they were contacting both Oklahoma State and TCU of all teams to possibly join the Pac-12. They're flailing right now. And I think they're saying we might be adding more teams. The teams they're referencing when they're saying that are the Mountain West teams, the Fresno States. Maybe they're trying to talk to teams in the Big 12, but right now it seems like the Big 12 is going to be the one poaching the Pac-12, not vice versa. Big 12 poaches Pac-12, at least that's the way it's looking right now with all of this, with the Pac-12 speeding up, expediting their negotiation process so these teams know how much money they're going to make or how much money they're going to lose, it being in the Pac-12 without having USC and UCLA. It's a lot lower. Those teams in the Pac-12 are going to want to get out, possibly go to the Big 12 or any conference they can find. If these super conferences do form, you want to make sure you're in one of them. That's what Oregon's going to be in one of them. Worst case scenario for Oregon, in my opinion, you're in the third super conference. Best case scenario, you're in the Big 10. That's for Oregon. Washington, I think it's a little bit lower of a chance Washington could get into the Big 10, but the academics fit. Washington is an academic fit in the Big 10. The Pac-12 is expected to enter into an exclusive 30-day negotiation window with Fox and ESPN before entertaining offers from other bidders. In a video earlier, I had said apparently Fox is not interested at all in the Pac-12. They're obsessed with the Big Ten. They're saving all their money for the Big Ten. The Big Ten's going to have a record new deal with Fox in the coming years. So Fox isn't interested. ESPN is going to be the one that probably takes the Pac-12. Before the Pac-12 statement Monday, one industry source suggested the Big 12 should go quickly expand with Pac-12 teams, then go to the market early to get ahead of the Pac-12 and their current deal with Fox and ESPN, which expires in 2024. The Big 12 deal expires in 2025. Of course, we expect both Texas and Oklahoma to leave a year early and eat a little bit of a fee, but it's only a 1 year early fee, so it's not going to be much. Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC at the start of the 2025 season. That's the expectation right now. Or maybe the 2024 season, because we know USC and UCLA are going to be in the Big Ten in 2024. Maybe they try and expedite it. I think they probably will. Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah bring an annual revenue that at least matches the 12 members of the Big 12 set to remain with the league once Texas and Oklahoma leave. That is scheduled in 2025. I wonder, though, if it happens a year earlier due to the Big 10 expansion in 2024. That is one reason why Big 12 expansion would work in this case, as the conference would not aim to make its slices of media rights pie smaller. It's not known yet whether adding Oregon and Washington is viewed as the same way by the Big 12. That would be the big fish, in my opinion. We knew, and this was already broken and known, these four teams were meeting. It's trending in the right direction for Colorado to go to the Big 12, for Utah to go to the Big 12, Arizona and Arizona State possibly in the Big 12 as well. But Oregon and Washington, very, very interesting. Do Oregon and Washington want to wait to try and get into the Big Ten? They've got to wait for Notre Dame to make a decision on what they want to do. Once Notre Dame makes the decision, the dominoes start to fall in terms for the Big Ten. But could this be a situation where they don't want to be left out, so they just say, let's join the Big 12, get into one of these super conference. It's guaranteed going to be the third best conference in college football at this point. I think the way it's setting up, we can comfortably say right now, it's going to be a 1-2 SEC Big 10 1-2. And I'm talking about years down the line. The future of college football. SEC Big 10 are fighting for 1 and 2. Big 12 is clearly third. And then it's kind of a mosh pit. I guess right now it would be the ACC. The ACC's survival is dependent on what happens with Notre Dame in the Big Ten. Because if Notre Dame goes to the Big Ten and then they add Stanford, I would imagine that the SEC would look to poach some of the major ACC teams, Miami, Clemson, FSU, teams like that. So then the ACC becomes a subconference. The Pac-12 is basically the Mountain West 2.0 with Oregon State, California, and Washington State and teams like that. That's the problem. Teams like Oregon State are going to get completely run over. They're not going to be relevant anymore. And they were Power 5 teams, and now there's no Power 5. There's a Power 3, I guess. Like, if you want to talk about the future, I guess what we're setting up is 3 super conferences, a Power 3, minimum, very likely 18 teams per super conference. Now, what I personally believe this is just me, what I think is going to happen. I think Oregon goes to the Big Ten. I think another team goes to the Big Ten with Notre Dame. So it's Notre Dame, Oregon, and then 2 other teams, they get to 20. The SEC takes teams from the ACC, they get to 20. And then you would have the Big 12 taking the 4 that were mentioned, the 4 teams from the Pac-12, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, and then 4 more teams from the ACC. And then all those leagues are poached, and you have 3 major super conferences. Right now, the major questions: does Notre Dame stay independent? They very likely could. I did a video on it earlier talking about they're hesitant to join the Big Ten. They like being exclusive. They like being independent. Yes, they would make more money if they go to the Big Ten, but they like the independence, and they don't mind leaving money on the table, apparently, but this would be a lot more money to leave on the table, especially with how attractive the Big Ten currently is with the 2 California schools. After that happens, you have the situation in the Big 12. This Big 12 situation might be sorted out before the Notre Dame situation, especially with these 4 teams. This almost seems imminent. And they're saying, all of these sources are saying exactly what the Big 12 should do. Be aggressive. Make sure you're the 3rd super conference. That's what they're doing. Be aggressive. Don't let the Pac-12 dictate anything. The Pac-12 at this point, if you're talking about the Power 5 conferences, the Pac-12 is the closest one to dissolving. And then the ACC. The ACC, nobody's touched the ACC right now. We'll see what happens. If other things happen that cause the SEC to branch into the ACC, then we'll talk about it. But right now, nobody's touched the ACC, but they're teetering. The Big 12 looks to be in a stable position right now to add to it, poach teams off of the Pac-12, maybe even get Oregon and Washington, which would be an amazing get for a conference like the Big 12, because you're looking to stay relevant if you're the Big 12, and this would 100% keep you relevant. Oregon recruits at a top 10 level. They've got the Nike money. They're throwing around major NIL deals. It's an it would be an amazing get, but I still don't know if I buy it 100% yet. That's what they're saying. They're trying to get them. I buy the 4 teams. I buy the idea that the 4 teams from the Pac-12 will be going to the Big 12. They're in a meeting today, apparently. Everyone's been talking about it. Those teams look likely. Oregon and Washington, I still think they want to try and get into the Big Ten. Do they wait, though? I think they can afford to wait. I think they can afford to wait and say, listen, we can always join the Big 12 if we have to, but right now we're still trying to get that extra money by getting into the Big Ten. So we will see what happens, guys. This is a major developing situation with conference realignment. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.